hopefully we should now be live.
Hello world, ShannonMac here.
And Jazzcat, as per usual.
No Laura, so no doubt we'll get a lot of work done. But who knows, she may surprise us and pop in.
Yes, what's the word? Skiving. She's skiving.
We do miss her when she's not here. We're just having good-hearted fun.
Oh, I can't. I was going to pick a couple of bones with her, actually. About, hang on, is Liana, I don't know if Liana can, Liana's in the chat, and she pointed this out to me, because it was just, you know, in the process of just getting the bug text done, we took a couple of shortcuts, and my big thing, if you like, is making sure that whenever people create things, they UV map them correctly. And of course, with the pressure of the stream, and Laura saying, just could you do this, we just did it the quick way. But there's a reason why you don't do it the quick way. And Liana, who's a regular in the chat, she pointed this out. So I don't know if I've let me think. Have I still got the images somewhere? Hang on. Well, no, if Liana's listening, so if Liana, if you can, how did we do it before? Did you send me a PM or something? Yes, you did. Hold on. Right, but this is, these are kind of, I mean, I hope she doesn't mind me showing these on stream, but it's actually quite important because it addresses some of my main bugbears that...
Laura, do you have anything to say about this? No? I don't hear Laura saying, so go ahead.
No. Oh, yes, we can talk all sorts of bad things about Laura now that she's not here today.
No. Oh,
what a shame.
I don't hear Laura speaking out, so it must be okay.
What
Keep
a
going.
shame. Right, okay, so Liana said yes. So, right. Let me just bring up the text in Blender so that we can see this. Now, I don't know if it'll... Which one did I do? It's a bug. No, I need the furniture item, don't I? Hold on. I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Right, the way that Liana's, not Liana, Laura's impatience in wanting to get the UV map sorted out, it's probably not visible or not noticeable, so I'll just switch. Right, so if I select the object and go into UV mode, which displays the UV map, I don't know, I should be showing this via Zoom so that you can see this live.
Okay. Actually, I have your Twitch channel.
Oh right, are you watching the Twitch stream? Okay.
So yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Right. So basically, what was done was the UV map was done. It was unwrapped face on. So if you imagine that you're looking directly at the object, and the UV map is unwrapped relative to that object or that projection, so it's face on. That means that the side doesn't get unwrapped properly. So what it's doing is essentially stretching the texture across the sides. Now, under normal circumstances, that might be okay. But the problem with that is that if, depending on how you work your texture, or how you, not work it out, how you fit your texture within the bounds of, because this UV that you can see on screen at the moment, that's your texture map. So that's the UV wireframe that people ask for when they want a map for, texturing. So if they do exactly what's required of them and fill in the gaps, so to speak, and paint within the bounds of the UV, this will sometimes happen. And what's happened there is that because of the UV map and the way that the texture matches up to the UV, it's stretching some of the dark pixels across the surface. So you end up with this striation, or these lines. And obviously if you were doing something and you didn't want those lines to appear, you're kind of stuck. And that's because of taking a shortcut UV mapping your object. Now, depending on the UV map itself, it may be possible to compensate for that by, let me just open up. Yes, as Liana's saying, I feel it's important as a mesher to do the best possible job to make texturing optimal for others. Yes, that's true. And Liana's not the only one that Briggs mentioned the texture stretching problem as well. Because the problem that texture artists have is trying to figure out whether that's a problem that they're creating or whether it's a problem with the mesh itself. And more often than not, it's when that particular problem happens. Where's it gone? When that particular problem happens, it's usually an issue with the mesh, and it's tricky depending on the UV map and the mesh to sort out. But one way you can test to see if it's the texture or the mesh is to, let me load the that's the texture map for that. And it's going to take a while to, there we go. So let me just get rid of these colors so that we can see the wireframe. So if you are literal with your texture painting and you paint specifically or exactly within the bounds of the UV map that you've got, which are the letters, you'll get this problem. But you can compensate by overfilling or overpainting. So if you're, whoops, my brush is a bit too big there. So if you are filling the B letter, you want to overpaint with whatever color you're using as your main body color. I mean, in this instance, it's just black because that was the last color I had selected whilst I was working on something. But that goes over the edge. So what that will do is it's essentially creating a bleed, a degree of bleed into the unused space, which is obviously the white stuff. So if you have a bad UV map or a mesh that has a bad UV map, the problem shouldn't be as noticeable because you've bled the color, the main color that you've, red or green, for instance, you've bled that beyond the edge of the UV. So what it should do is then create a clean transition across the surface that's got the stretched UV. And this is why as a mesher, you need to make sure that you're always, as best as possible, UV unwrapping your objects properly, because it saves causing problems, particularly if it's a derivable item. It saves problems for people deriving, because you will just cause stretching, which is what Liana was showing with her derivation. That's what these stretching, well, that's what these lines are. It's pixels being stretched across the edge. So that was going to be a bone that was to be picked with Laura for encouraging, shall we say, the use of quick techniques to get things unwrapped. And as a mesher, you want to try and avoid doing that.
Well, I don't hear anything from Laura, so I think you're 100% right there, and I want to support you in that.
Yeah. Yeah, as it's as Liana's pointing out, it doesn't happen everywhere. It happens in some places, but not in others. So it just makes deriving. I mean, as you can probably see on screen, you've got some very thin bands of dark pink, and then there are some very large smudged bands. And, there's no particular reason why they are that way. But it causes problems for texture artists, because they can't, it's the inconsistency and trying to determine whether it's them or the mesh that's causing the problem. And obviously, if it's the mesh, then you can compensate using the little trick that I mentioned earlier, just over paint, so that you're creating a degree of bleed, and that should solve the problem in most instances. But some of the meshes are quite egregious. Oh, Aislinn's joined. Hello, Aislinn. And yes, she's quite right. Texture artists are just so picky. So that was it's important from the point of view of when you're meshing to address these sorts of issues, and it's best not to gloss over them. As even as a beginner, it's something that you can be aware of, as we were doing with the pumpkin patch, making sure that was as easy to derive from as possible. There was another issue, but I can't remember what it was now. So
it's kind of convenient when Laura isn't here to defend herself.
I know.
It makes the debates
so much
fast.
easier.
You should do this more often.
Cool. We've got quite a few people in now. Excellent. Right. So this was suggested last week to obviously accompany your love word. So everybody decided on bug. So we created bug, which we made as a derivable item, which some of the regulars derived from. I'm not quite sure if they've all passed peer review or not. But we did think that... so are we going to... with the Valentine's thing, the deadline for that is when?
So I spoke about this with Laura. She was the one who orchestrated it, but I seem to recall we want to be we want to be done with this like by the end of the month, but let me double check that just to be sure.
Right.
Because I did update the contest area, but it was off of the blog, which Laura and some other people put together. So I just want to be double sure here that I got the dates right. Give me just a minute while you wax
well, whilst you're doing that, I'll just see if I can see how many drivables we've had on the bug. Oh, we've had a couple. That's cool. Not sure what the we were going to do a sort of a little contest with it, but excellent. Yep, that's four people.
Okay, I'm back. It doesn't actually say, but in my mind, to derive off of this, I was hoping to give them about, 2 weeks or a little under 2 weeks. That seems like enough time to do it. I mean, so I was personally shooting for the end of January, which I think gives us, including this session, so say the 1st of February, because that's a Thursday and the 31st is a Wednesday. So I would like to be done with this by February 1st at the latest, so that we could then get it up before the weekend.
Yeah.
So then we give people 2 weekends to do this, because some people, they're only going to have time on the weekend, and others can do it during the day, right? And then it looks like it closes on the 13th, and then you and I announce the winners on the 14th. So you and I are going to be talking on the 13th quite a bit, and the 14th.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
As
right,
we figure
out. How far did we get before? Oh, you need to share your screen for this.
Yes, I've got it ready to go. So give me just a moment.
Right, so this is a continuation. This is session 3. Yes, this will be session 3. So first session was 2 hours of trying to choose a font. Session
Laura's fault.
Yeah. It's just blame Laura, universal. Session 2 was actually starting to make the thing, and then session 3 we should be able to get into converting it to a... Did we get as far as converting it to a mesh?
I don't know if we got that far. We started stretching things out and doing a number of interesting things. And also, to be fair, I mean, we didn't do too much. We didn't do as much as we wanted to Thursday, because I had that dental cleaning just over. And Tuesday we were kind of figuring out. So I think this is the first official day where we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. But we did do a fair amount on Thursday, I think.
Right. So for stream, this is Shannon's screen on screen.
Yeah.
Is that full screen? Doesn't look like it's full screen. Oh, there we go.
I will not be able to look at the Twitch stuff so much now while I'm meshing here and sharing the screen, just as an FYI.
That's all right. Right, so we've got the letters. So to recap, basically what we did was probably a good idea for me to... Hang on. You just leave your screen as is. I'll just bring Blender back up from...
Oh, you want me to stop sharing?
No, keep. That's fine. I've just. So I'll just recap for those that are completely new. Right. So basically, what we did, created a new scene, deleted the cube, left the cursor where it is, added some text. That creates some text. You go into edit mode, and then you use your backspace or delete to change whatever it is, and you type whatever you want. Exit edit mode. That gives you a base font or text object, and then in object properties for the font, which is the button with the F on it, you can set a font for this, and you need to be in object mode for this. Just click the folder icon. You'll have to browse to your Windows folder, and as this is probably this will likely be a system folder, so it'll be hidden. So you'll have to go through the rigmarole of unhiding system files, which differs depending on which operating system you're using. So Windows fonts. Where's my fonts folder gone? You can change the display of the fonts to thumbnails so that you get a preview. And then I'll just use the bug font that we used last time. So select it, open, and your word will be set in the font that you choose. Once you've got that, we just rotated it vertical. So that's using the rotate widget, left click, dragging the red handle. And that gives us essentially a plane. It's a flat surface. So what you can do next is just fiddle around with the extrude value. And it extrudes from center of mass. And that's how you create your basic or initial. That's as far as we've got so far. So we've got a basic object that we can now do the next step, which is to convert into a real mesh that we can use. So that's what we did so far. That's a recap.
Sounds good to me.
Just reading the chat, see if we've missed anything.
Okay.
Oh, Liana posted the... is that the derivation? Yeah, so Liana's posted the derivation page for the bug text.
Thanks for that.
Right, so what we've got so far for you is, because of the design of the graphic that... Let me just bring that up as well. The rough design that we're working to, again, to recap, if I can find it. Oh, it's in contests. There it is. So this is what we are trying, well, thematically that's what we're trying to produce. Obviously slight variation, but this is what Laura came up with as a quick design for the contest. So that's what we're trying to achieve. So as we can see on screen, what we've got is the word love, and for Shannon these are 4 separate letters because we needed the heart in there, which is it is a font, but it's a different font, and it's aligned and tilted in a way that you can't do if it's a single word, because we don't have that much control over the way fonts work. So we've had to create 4 letters, so that's the L, the heart, the V and the E, as separate objects so that we can manipulate them. So far what we've got are the 4 letters, and we've extruded, and what we're about to do is then convert them into meshes that we can use. So if you want to right click any one of them, it doesn't matter which one,
okay,
and in the object menu bottom left, that's it, click that, and you should have right at the very top convert to. Click that, and then we want the bottom one, which is mesh, and then select Keep Original, bottom left, in the panel that just opened. On the left-hand side, Convert to. That's it.
Okay.
And what that's done is it's kept the original font, but created a duplicate, if you like, that's converted into a mesh. So if you press the G key now and just move your mouse, you'll see that you've got a separate second object.
Left click to place it?
No, well, no, just right click to reset.
Ah, okay.
And what we can do here is use the layers feature. Oh, hang on, did we actually do this already last week?
I thought so. This seems familiar. I seem to recall we made copies of each letter, but is there a way to check?
Yeah, I couldn't remember whether we did. Okay, so just reload the file. So go into File, up top left.
Go back to the last file.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reopen. Open recent, rather. And then open the number 5. Yeah.
There we go.
So do you see immediately below where your mouse cursor is, there's a load of buttons, a little grid of buttons.
Mm-hmm.
If you click the one that's at the top there with a little sphere that's grey, you've got two, one above the other.
Sphere that's grey. Am I in the right area?
Where your mouse was just before you, so move it to the right again. See that grid? Yeah. So can you see that 2 of those have little spheres in them? Mm-hmm. Click the one that's just grey. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that must be the font. And then the one below is the converted version.
Click that too?
Yeah, so if you click that, left click.
Okay.
Right, yeah, so. Okay. So we must have created the meshes in the last session, that's good. Oh, it's a shame Laura's not here, because the next question is, well, how do you want these to be textured? Because what we can do is create a separate texture for each of the letters, even though, you know, the concept, the image that she created, has everything as pink.
Mm-hmm.
We can create the text so that a different texture can be applied to each of the letters.
Okay. Oh, that would be pretty cool if we have time to do that.
We should do, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you probably have in your mind how many hours this is going to take, and you didn't get surprised or anything when I said let's be done by February 1st or before. So
no, it should be okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Now I'm just reading, catching up on chat to make sure that we're not missing anything.
No worries. I mean, definitely if they have questions, we should stop every now and then to answer.
Yeah. So if you have questions about what we're actually doing, then yes.
We may want to have one of the regular people field some of the stuff if it starts to grow, but right now I don't think it's a huge issue with 20 people or so in.
Is your screen full screen again? Is it me or is it you?
I shrunk it. I put it to medium to look at the Twitch stuff.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Yeah, it's obviously that when you do that, it just crops the screen. So it's because.
Question: if I shrink it down like this, can you still see it full screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm used to having large monitors and shifting things around.
Right.
So
yeah. Okay. Right. So first thing we want to do then, rather than doing it as just one pink color, we're going to assign a different material and texture to each of the letters. So with the letter E, so we make sure that we're in, so we have to make sure that we have got meshes selected. So if you switch to edit mode, just to double check, so we've got the letter E selected. That's it. Just switch to edit mode. Yeah, that's fine. We're in. Yeah, that's so. Switch back to object mode.
Okay.
Right, so we're going to assign some materials. So in the properties panel section on the right-hand side, see the button to the right of the one that's actually active at the moment. The little, yeah, so click the sphere. And that's your material properties. And at the moment, there's nothing there. So if you click the new button, we'll get a set of properties. So where your mouse is right now in that text field, click there and just type a name to, well, just call it the letter E.
Okay.
Press enter. That just confirms. Down below in the diffuse subsection, left click the color sample, which is a sort of a light grey off-white color.
Right here?
The bit above it. That's it. Left click that and then just select a color from that. So left click in the color wheel or whoops.
Should we ask the users if they want a particular color?
We can do. It's, I mean, it can be any color. So you can either left click in an area or left click drag the little dot that you see in the center of that wheel.
Okay. I'm just going to click green, see what happens here.
Yeah. And as you see, the letter turns green.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm curious what some of our users say if they want to have a say in this.
Any specific?
I like the purple, but I'm open. Red. Just clicking around here. Light blue.
Green is not a Valentine color, Briggs says.
Yes, that might be why I haven't gone over there as much. I mean, I'm feeling a red and purple.
Well,
myself.
it is if all you're giving your partner is or your significant other is just the top of your roses, the heads of the rose. You've cut the stems off. That's sending a message.
That's a good point. I've not considered that, but you know. Any winning contenders there?
Aislin's saying, as a texture artist, I prefer my meshes not to be coloured because it messes with the design I have in my head. But for teachable moments, colour it.
Right. While they're picking the colour, I'm going to...
Blue, Frenzy says blue ripple. So I guess that's blue plus purple, so blurple.
Blurple?
Yeah, blurple.
What is blurple? Like this?
Not sure. It'll be a mixture of what's the
purple and red right there per the shades, right? This becomes red. This becomes purple. Blurple.
Blue. Would it be? It'll be between blue and. Well, would it be pink?
I don't know if there's a pink choice here per se.
Yes, as Hot Rod mentioned, green is the finest colour known.
Well, this is the closest thing to reddish purple. I'm okay with this if we want to do it.
Right, so as you just did, once you've selected your colour, all you do is you move the mouse to one side and the colour pop-up box automatically just disappears. So what you've done is, and this is, I mean, in this particular context, all we're doing is creating a material for each of the letters and giving each letter a color so that we can just easily identify it. So it doesn't look as if we've got the same material applied to all the letters, which, you can do. I mean, you could apply this purple to all the letters if you wanted to. So if you now right-click the V and repeat the process. So in the Properties panel, you can see it's blank. So left-click the New button on the right, the panel on the right. That's it.
Oh,
so you've created another set of properties. So so you can change the color. So left-click that and then select a color. A lot of people are saying red or magenta purple.
You mean like the E?
Code. That's Code Rodent. That's our favorite person.
Well, I'm going to go with red just to mix it up, because I think it sounds like we're trying for different colors here, right? But I guess we'll see how it looks at the end and then adjust as needed, because it might be ugly.
No, it'll be fine, because all we're doing, as I say, is we're just creating a set of materials and giving the material a color. It doesn't affect the final end result. This is just essentially so that we can easily recognize the materials that are assigned to each of the objects.
Sounds good. Right. Moving over to the heart, perhaps?
Yep, so right-click.
Okay.
And then again, New. And then select a color.
Green, the finest color in the land? Orange, red, purple. There's a strong purple compared to the reddish purple.
So this will be instead of taking 2 hours to select fonts as we did in the previous session.
We just go through it. Yeah, we'll stop. But good point. Over to L.
Moving along. Right. So this one you might have noticed already had a material assigned to it. And that's because it's kept it's essentially kept the default material that was assigned to the text object before we broke it into sections.
Okay.
So what we can do now is we need to change the name that we've got assigned to these materials. So instead of material.002, so if you left click there and call it something that's relative to the object.
Blue letter L. Enter.
Yes, Code Rodent. It took us 2 hours to select a font.
I remember that.
Yeah, so 2 hours to selecting the color for a diffuse material. Yeah.
Yeah, now that I've mentioned like a hard deadline, you're watching it now. That's good.
Right, so select the heart, right-click the heart, and do the same thing for that.
Do you want me to save this file?
Not yet. So right-click the heart.
Okay.
And change its material name.
Purple heart.
And then the V.
Red V.
And we've already done the E, so that's okay. Right, so save the file now.
Okay, saved.
Right, so let me think. An easy way to do the next bit is to so if you just don't worry about what's on your screen. Right, so you might need to watch Twitch unless I screen share with you.
Let me stop sharing, that way everyone can see it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to go
let me
over to Twitch.
So this is a little bit of performance juggling whilst we switch so that Shannon can see what I'm doing live so that he's reacting to it in context. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
In Zoom? Right, excellent.
I can see it in Twitch. I'm just looking at Twitch, if that's okay.
Oh, right, okay. Well, stop
and
screen
I can also look through the comments and let you know some of the highlights,
right, okay.
if you want.
Excellent. Right, so what we've done.
There's a question pretty far up if we're doing poses. I think the answer to that is yes.
Yes, we are. I'm not quite sure how many, or there will be at least. Well, we'll have the default at least. Don't know how long we'd have custom poses. So, right. So let me just quickly convert this. So convert to mesh. Keep the original. I'm going to move this. So that's the M key. M for Marty. Brings up the layer controls. Just going to move that to the bottom layer. So it makes it selectable without getting confused with the actual text. Just going to create a quick material for this. Change its color. Make it off pink. And just give it a material name. We need to do something to the materials later on, but that will come later because we've got to make them conform to what IMVU is expecting. Right, so the next bit, the easiest bit, we need to set up the materials properly relative to what's to be expected. But a quick way to do that is to, once you've got your material assigned, which is what we've just been doing, and we've set a color, what we can do is create our image that we're going to assign to the object in the UV image editor. And all we do is click the new button once we've got the UV image editor visible. This will open up the pop-up. So give this a name. Want to change the size of the texture, 512 by 256. Want to select a type. So we've got a couple of types. We just want a UV grid. Then OK. And that gives us a texture that we can assign to the object. And what this is doing is just creating an association between the image that we've just created and the mesh object. So we have to go into edit mode. Whoops. Edit mode. Make sure everything is selected. Just make sure everything is selected. And then we just assign the texture to the object. And it's not going to crash Blender. There we go. So if I switch to texture mode, the object changes its appearance. But what we can then do is, once we've got the texture associated with the UV map, this is just the base UV map. We're not doing anything complicated at the moment. But once we've got this association, what we can do to make the process easier for setting up the materials, exit edit mode, is we've got the material that we've got assigned to this object. We want to go into texture properties, create a set of properties, actual properties, and then we assign the image that we've just created. And this is a slightly easier way of doing things, because you can set up your basic materials, create your images, and then assign the images to the object and the material, so that you can, it makes it easier to see what you're doing, basically. And then once we've got those set up for each of the letters that you've got, the 4 letters, we can then unwrap the object and sort it out relative to export, which would be the next thing. So I shall switch back to, if you start sharing your screen again.
All right. Looks like there's some questions in the stream.
Okay, so what have we got? No kissy poses.
What? Aw.
Yes, so we hopefully will be doing poses. So Liana and a couple of others, DJ, they're asking, and Hot Rod, I think, as well. They're asking about poses, so we will hopefully be doing some poses.
Also, if there's like no emergencies and we're getting close to the wire, I could probably make some time to do some additional things if we're shooting for February 1st to be done.
We should be okay for that, yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like we're okay from what you're saying.
So normally you can do them if you're not familiar with Blender or you're having difficulty using Blender, you can always use Deliverance's sticker, which you can make poses with, but you still have to, if you're confident enough to be able to create your furniture, your basic furniture item, and set up the nodes, which we will be doing at some point, then you can create your custom poses with Deliverance's sticker and bring it all together in create mode. So you don't necessarily have to use, well, if you can't use Blender for those more complicated elements of the process, you do have options. Right, so so we've got our 4 materials. So can you see that strip running across the top of the application? One of the where you've got file. Yeah, so if you move to the right where it says default, that's it, and left click the little button that looks like a window to the left.
This here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And select UV editing from the list.
Oh.
So what you've done is, rather than what we would normally do, which is switching one of the views that's available to the UV image editor, this is slightly more convenient because you're basically changing the layout to a mode that facilitates you UV mapping, because that's the focus of the function or the activity that you're about to do. So you can use this, the layout selector, to change the appearance so that you focus on a particular task. So if you just zoom into your letters, better, that's it.
How close do I want to get?
Well, if you, in bottom left of that, can you see the, the layout is split down the middle of the screen. So you've got 2 view menus. One view menu is for the 3D view where your mouse is currently, and the other view menu is for the UV image editor. So if you click on the, to the left of the 3D view, he says, click select on the right.
Oh, I already moved letters around if they matter.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, what you can do is click select.
Select camera, maybe?
No, it's, where is it? No, view. Click view. That's it.
Right.
And you
You
can,
go top.
yeah, you can go view, and then up the top there you can see view all, view selected, view global local. So if you just click on one of those, view all or view selected,
Okay.
and it'll reorient the scene to the selection that you've made.
Good to know.
So you should now, because what can happen is that when you're constantly moving the scene around, you can lose the orientation focus or the pivot point of the screen, and you can start manipulating all over the place. So using those two options, it refocuses on the objects that are in the scene or the objects that you've selected. Right, so we've got the letter E selected. So if you switch to texture mode, so that's the spherical button to the right of where it says object mode.
Right.
That's it. So click that.
Okay.
Select texture.
Ooh.
And it changes the appearance of the mesh for the moment. Right, so move over to the image editor, the UV image editor on the left, and click the button that says New at the bottom there. Yep. Now type a name, so we're on the letter E, so give it a relative or relevant name.
Can I call it letter E as I did that?
Yep, you can. You can call it whatever you want.
Okay. Enter?
Yep.
Okay.
Left click width. Set that to 512.
Okay.
Left click height and 256 for that. And then where it says blank at the bottom, left click that and then select UV grid and then OK. So what you've got is a generated texture. So we need to associate this now with the mesh. So in the 3D view, switch to edit mode. Make sure everything is selected. So from the select menu, select all, deselect all. That's everything selected. Then now go over to the UV image editor. Down to the bottom where you've just typed, well, can you see where it says letter E? So left click the little picture icon. That's it. Left click that and then left click the entry that you've got there. And you can see that the mesh changed. So what we've done is we've assigned the texture that we just created to the letter E.
Okay.
Right, so 3D view, exit edit mode and select the V.
Select the V, vertex paint.
Sorry, go into object mode.
Object, okay.
Yeah. Now right click the V, the letter V.
Okay.
We need to repeat this process. So go over to the UV image editor, down to the bottom, but this time we want to create a new material. So in the left click the image menu option that you can see to the left there, and left click new image down at the bottom. And then repeat the process. So give this a title that's appropriate for the mesh.
Okay.
It's kept the width and the height, so that's okay, and it's kept the UV grid, so that's okay. So all you need to do is just left click OK.
Okay, nice.
Now that has created a new image, but because they're exactly the same, it looks as if we haven't. So if you now 3D view, edit mode, select everything for the letter V, so that's from the select menu. That's it. So over to the UV image editor, click the little picture icon again, and then we have two entries. So click the one that you just created, letter V.
Okay.
And that's assigned that to the letter V. So we've now got two letters with textures assigned. Right, so exit edit mode for that letter. That's it. And then right click the heart. Again, repeat the process. So left click the image menu. That's it. New. Give it a title. Everything's okay there, so click OK. Whoops, did you click OK, or did you?
I clicked OK, but let me check.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah,
heart.
okay. Right,
Yeah.
so edit mode for your mesh.
Okay.
Select all. That's it. Image menu, image editor, picture icon. Left click the picture icon, that's it.
Right.
That's it. And then the heart.
Yep.
Left click that. And again, it's assigned to the heart. So now that's done. Exit edit mode for the heart. Hang on, got a question. What are you selecting with? Oh, in the 3D view, you can use the select menu. So if you move your mouse down to the select menu and just click on that so that it's visible for everyone in chat in the 3D view.
You're talking to a user, not me, right?
No, to you.
Oh, you are? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
So if you click on select, the select menu.
Okay.
Right. So when you want to select, so this is now me answering the question in chat. I just needed you to do that so that we could visually see it.
Okay.
So to select all, we've got an option there that actually says deselect, or brackets D, close brackets, select all. That option allows you to deselect everything and select everything. But whether it does one or the other depends on whether there's something already selected or not. If there is something selected, it doesn't matter whether it's one vertex or all vertices. If you click that, deselect all, it will deselect everything. So if you want to then reselect, if you wanted to reselect everything, you'd have to click that again. So sometimes you have to do it twice, because what you're essentially doing is clearing any active selections and then making a complete selection of everything. So you have to do it twice. So that's how you select. But the shortcut key for that, as you can see in the menu there, is the letter A. So you just press the letter A and it will do it for you, or that's the shortcut for it. So that's answering Deb's question there. Right, so let's continue. So we've got the letter L selected. What are we doing? Creating a... So right, image menu, image editor. We want to click on the image menu. Yeah, new. And give this another name that's appropriate for the letter. And it's kept the info, so click the OK button. Edit mode for the mesh. Select everything. Back over to the image editor, click the picture button. And then the letter Y. No, letter L, sorry, yeah. So click that.
Okay.
Excellent. So exit edit mode for that. And then save a version of the file.
Right. Lucky 7. Amazing Valentine Mesh 7. All right. What's next?
Next, so where we what we can do now is assign the textures that we just created, assign the images that we just created to the materials. So we want to switch back to the default view. So up top where you click that little sort of window button that says UV image, yeah, so click that and then select default. And that switches us back to the default user interface. But as you might notice, the object isn't textured. And that's one thing that can be an advantage or disadvantage depending on what you're doing. The views or the layouts will keep the display settings that you have that are active whilst you're using it. So if you switch the scene now to texture mode, so if you, the spherical button to the right of object mode.
Object mode,
which is where we're changing between object and mesh edit mode.
Yeah. Wait, usually it's in the bottom here, am I?
Yeah, no, it's the up. You've switched views, so you're back to the default, so it's back to where it usually is. So if
right.
That's it.
Right there.
So that's the mode selector we want to change to texture view, which is the spherical button that's to its right that you've just selected.
Texture paint?
No, the can you see the spherical button to the right of that menu?
Yes.
That's it. Left click that.
Oh, okay.
Now texture.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. That's what we wanted to see. Right, so we've got the letter L selected. We've got our material set up for that. Now we need to associate the texture. So where we set up the textures before, the materials before, so we want to go to the right hand side, the properties panel, and we want to click on that icon that looks like a little checkerboard. It's to the right of the sphere. That's it. Click that. That's blank. So this is blank at the moment, so we need to click the new button. Type a name that's appropriate for the mesh. You're going to have to do that 4 times, so I would have...
Amazing Valentine's, Amazing One, Amazing Valentine's. Oh well. I'll do AV, AV2, AV3.
Yeah, right, so that's the name of the texture. So move the mouse. Can you see the image subsection there? You've got 2 buttons below that says new and open. Down below. That's it. To the left there, you've got another picture icon. Click that.
Right here?
Yep. So that's the letter L. So we need to click the letter L texture entry.
Okay.
That's it. And you've created now an association between the image that you created to the texture, to the material, to the mesh. So it's all linked together now. That's just for that one letter, so we need to repeat that for the other 3. So if you right-click the heart, and that's blank as well, so click the new, and give that an appropriate name.
AV2, learning my lesson here.
Yeah, right. Go down to the little picture icon button again. That's it, left-click and select the texture that you created, which is letter V.
This is heart, right?
Oh, is it heart? Yes, sorry, yeah, heart.
So there we go.
So that's now created an association between that and all the other bits and pieces. So right-click the letter V. That's blank as well, so new. Create a name. Enter, yep, go down to the picture icon. That's it. And you want the letter V, and then last but not least the letter E. So right click the letter E, do the same thing again. So give that a name, and then go down to the picture icon and click the letter E.
All right.
Right. Save another version of the file.
Good call. Saved.
Looks like chat is in a world of their own.
They're talking about something completely different.
Yeah, a public room by the looks of things. We can't really. That's the advantage of what Jinxie and Prim do is that they can do that. They can go into public rooms and muck about. Well, they cause mucking about problems. That's what they do. But we can't do it too much on whilst we're doing this, because it really is too.
Yeah, because I'm doing it, and you're giving me instructions, and we're pretty much focused on it.
Yeah.
But we can, in between, we can look at the feed like we're doing now and see if there's anything that needs.
Well, maybe that's something that we can do at some point in the future. Is in one of the next sessions is try setting up a public room and having people pop in there.
So when you say public room, are you talking about like a chat room on?
Oh yes, on IMVU. Yeah, that's what Jinxie and Prim do.
Okay, might have to be careful once we get past 10.
Yeah.
Keep the cape low. Yeah.
Right. So. So we've got our basic letters. We've got them signed materials. What we want to do next is optimize them. That's what we want to do next. Right, so you keep just sharing your screen and I'll just pop Blender back up over the top. Okay. So
I've stopped.
Right, so the next step, so if you watch, you might have to watch the Twitch stream for this little next bit. So the next bit is to optimize. And we need to do this because when you use fonts to create meshes, depending on the shape of the font, you're going to get something that's significantly dense as an object in terms of it has a lot of detail depending on the shape. So some of these curves use up a lot of surface data, and we need to optimize those before we stick them in IMVU so that we don't cause problems. But we need to do two things here. Two things. So select everything first, and we need to remove duplicate vertices, because I don't know if you've noticed, but these surfaces, they're curved, they appear curved, or they appear quite hard shaped, so that they're it's called smoothing, mesh smoothing, which is this option in Blender. But the way it does that when you convert text to meshes is that it actually physically splits the mesh, and we need to address a problem that potentially can create if we don't fix it straight away. So we need to go into edit mode, select everything, so that's the A key or using the menu, and then we need to remove doubles, and that'll give us a value up here. So it's 2,000 odd vertices, so that's removed, and it's created a solid single mesh, which now means that the next step, just going to enable wireframe so we can see this, the next step is to then assign a modifier, and we want decimate. And what this does is it gives us an option to reduce the complexity of the mesh in a way that, it's an optimization thing. we can reduce the number of surfaces in some of these so that it makes it easier to render. But this might be slightly tricky with this particular font style. But you just left click drag the slider value and it'll reduce the complexity and density of the mesh quite significantly, or you can type a value 0.25. But the reason why you have to remove the doubles is that if you don't, it decimates surfaces individually. So what you can sometimes have happen is that you'll get a disparity between curved surfaces and straight surfaces, and it'll reduce the number of polygons for one section, but it won't for another, which creates another problem that Liana pointed out to me, which I've now lost the image for. But you get this thing called sparklies, and it's not the good kind. Let me see if I can find the image. No, the chat's gone. The link has... Yeah, the link's gone. These are bad sparklies because what they're actually doing is revealing gaps in the mesh. And you want to avoid those, and you have to avoid them by removing the doubles. Otherwise you get little sort of, they're like little points of light. So as you move around an object, it appears to twinkle along the edges. So that's something again that we missed in the previous session because we were trying to get it done as quickly as possible. But that's the next step. So we just need to do some basic optimization before we do anything else to the object. So if you share your screen again.
All right, just a moment. Shared.
Right, so next step then is to optimize. So we've got the letter E selected. Go into edit mode. Make sure everything's selected, so go into the select menu or press the A key.
Was it Shift A?
No,
A.
it's just A. So if you move the mouse over the 3D view, press the A key.
Okay.
And then press the A key again. Right. And then on the left hand side of Blender, you've got your tools shelf, which is a scrollable area. So if you scroll down to the bottom, yeah, you've got that remove doubles button. Left click that.
Okay.
And it's removed 300 odd. So that's okay. Brilliant. Exit edit mode. Select the letter V. Repeat the process. So switch to edit mode. Press the A key.
Okay.
You have to move the mouse over. Make sure the mouse is over the 3D view. That's it.
Like
Press
that.
the A key again. That's it. And then you've got rem doubles already visible. So left click that button in the left hand side there. That's it. So that's just reviewed. Oh, that's not too many. That's okay. So exit edit mode for that. Right click the heart. Edit mode.
A.
A key.
Okay.
A key again. A key. No,
remove double.
sorry, I was just A
Oh, I
key
missed it.
as in OM A key all over.
Oh.
Right, so press the A
Okay.
key.
Okay.
That's it, everything's selected. Now click the remove doubles button.
Okay, got it.
That's 500 odd that have been removed. So exit edit mode. Yep, click the L, edit mode. Make sure everything's selected, so A key. And again, that's it. And then click remove doubles. And that's just a couple. Exit edit mode. Right, so save a version of the file again.
Okay.
You're very welcome, Lorraine. Somebody's leaving to pick up the kidleys.
Oh. See you later.
Yep. Cheery bye. Right, so we need to optimize now. I doubt we'll get much leg. What is it? Leg room. We won't get much out of the letter L and the letter V because they're kind of already optimized already. So, if you
Select the heart.
Yes, select the heart, and to make this easier to see and understand in context, on the right hand side in the properties panel, can you see the little orange cube button? So if you go up to the top where that series of buttons are, that's it, click that.
Okay.
And go down to the bottom where it says wire and draw all. You've got a display subsection just about where your mouse is. So move your mouse to the left a little bit. You've got the wire checkbox.
Okay, check that.
Yeah. And the one below.
Okay.
Right, so we can see the physical structure of the object. So that just makes this next step easier to understand in context. In fact, actually, you can right-click select each of them in turn and enable those two options. So if you right-click one of the other letters, the letter E or the V or the L, doesn't matter which one, and do the same thing again. That's it. Select the V. That's it, and the letter L. Yeah, I don't think we'll get too much mileage out of the letter L and the letter V because they're already quite optimized. Right, so the heart selected. Two buttons to the right of the one that you just clicked is a little spanner icon, or wrench as you would call it, up top.
Wrench.
Yeah, where you click the orange, that's it. Click that.
Okay.
Then left click add modifier. And from the list, on the second list of items, can you see decimate? That's it. Left click that. And then we've got the slider option. So you can either left click drag where it says ratio, or you can type a value. You can left click to activate and then type a value. The text input field above that where it says ratio.
Ratio.
Yeah, it's directly above. So if you...
Not seeing ratio. Did I miss it? Or is it pretty high up?
Hang on, as your... it looks like your screen's frozen.
I see this ratio here.
Hang on, your screen's frozen.
Oh. It's moving for me. Should I stop sharing and then share again, maybe?
Oh, it's catching up now.
Okay. All right. Is it caught up or
No,
still?
not yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's me or you.
Well, I don't see any internet issues on
Yeah.
this end at work, but I'm not entirely sure.
Try try dropping out of sharing just to see what that does.
Okay, stop sharing.
That's okay. So reshare.
How's that?
It's showing Blender's stuck with a menu option. Oh, there we go. It's disappeared. Right, so yes, can you see where it says ratio? And then on the left it says ratio, on the right it says 1.000. So if you left click drag in there, you can change that value, or if you left click or double left click, you can type a value. But as you're doing that, if you watch what's happening to the heart in the main view, you can see it reducing in complexity.
Turns into a triangle if you go all the way.
Yeah. So if you type 0.25, that should be okay. Yeah, you can actually type it as a value to be more accurate.
Okay.
That's it.
Right.
Now, this is one of the other things as well, you see. I'm just going to pop up my Blender on screen to explain this.
Stop sharing.
You don't need to, it's fine. One of the big problems that creators don't think about when they're making their meshes is that they will dump. Let me just do this. I'm going to convert this again to another mesh. And this is something that meshers need to think about. Now, if you, I don't know if you can see this on Twitch, but that's the version that's on screen right now is a direct conversion of the text, and it's pretty dense. There's a lot of structure there. The one on the right has been reduced, but you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between the two. And this is one of the things that meshers need to get their head around, is that you don't need to have an astonishingly dense mesh when none of this detail is ever going to be seen. I mean, you can be right up to this and you're not really going to notice there's a difference between the two. And there's a significant difference in the density of the meshes between the two, but you can't visually, you can't tell the difference. And what a lot of people do is they get caught up in this whole mesh density thing equals detail. It doesn't. You're dealing with pixels on screen, not physical structure. So it doesn't matter how dense you make your mesh, how it's displayed on screen is determined by the number of pixels your display actually has available to be able to display or describe, as in writing this thing to screen. That's going to determine how detailed the object is. And for IMVU, we can't get close enough to the objects to be able to see a significant difference between the density of really dense meshes and something that's carefully optimized. But this is one of the bugbears of a lot of users is that, you can load in a couple of objects and IMVU is crippled, not because of IMVU, but it's because of the density of the object that's being loaded in, because the person hasn't optimized it. So this is something that, along with all the other stuff that we've been talking about earlier on, this is something that's important for meshers to understand. This is specifically for meshers, that they have to optimize their objects, because hugely dense meshes don't matter. Not in IMVU. So with that little rant out of the way, I'm just going to save this actually, so that I've got a... Right, so where's the screen gone? There it is. So that's it. Right, so we've done that to the heart. If you right click the letter E and then repeat the process, so we're already in modifiers, so we can just click the add modifier selector and assign the decimate option. And then if you left click and then type 0.25 again, it'll reduce the mesh. And as per what we were just talking about, you can't tell the difference.
True.
In fact, you might be able to reselect the heart and maybe type 0.15 for that, just to see what that does. See, you can't tell the difference, but meshers will often leave their objects really, really dense, thinking that they're doing, thinking that they're creating detail. That's not how you create detail. Right, so save a version of the file.
I did a little error there. All right, let's try that. Okay. All right.
Just catching up on the comments, see if we've missed anything. Yes, as Hot Rod's saying, so true. Basically, you or anyone will never see it. You'll never be close enough to see it. In some games you can get close, but even then you're not going to notice the structural detail difference. But yes, I mean, the rule of thumb is to see how much you can remove without the silhouette or the outline of the object appearing to significantly change. And that's the general rule of thumb. Right, so the next bit is to UV unwrap this. So we might have time to just do one letter.
Okay.
And then we can do the others in the next session. So yeah, if you right click the letter L, we'll make this easy so that we, we just go over the principle. Now, hang on, let me just, right, so I'll pop up my Blender here. So what we want to do here is essentially, well, we can do one of two things. We can either do the cheap map, UV map, which is what caused the problems that we were discussing at the very beginning, which is, it stretches the texture across the sides, or we can do the proper UV map, which means that we can assign, well, it doesn't assign, so the texture appears over the object properly. The former is quick and easy to do, the latter is less so, but it's the proper way, essentially. So the way we're going to do this is, because these are relatively complicated shapes, because these are relatively complicated, what we're going to do have I still got the it's not behaving itself again. Hang on. Oh, right. Yeah, so you've got to apply it. Now it'll do it. So what we've got to do is essentially just break the UVs into sections so that we've got a front, and this may be tricky because of the style of the letters. So what we're going to do is use seams for this. So we need to switch over to not edit mode, edge mode, and we need to select the edges around the object so that we create a set of isolated elements. I'll just do this for the outside here so that we can see, whoops. But this will be slightly easier for you because you've got separate letters. Now, this is going to be a bit tricky. So once you've made your selection from the mesh menu, edges, we want mark seam, and that marks the selected elements that we've highlighted with a seam, which appears as this orange outline or highlight. What this means is that when we UV map this properly, it'll separate this element, out as a separate island, as they're called, which means that we can then properly map the image to that particular island. And we do that for everything, so we do that on the front and on the back, but for the sides, what we can do is just create a single seam, which means that it splits this single, let me see if I can, it'll split this entire object into a single element, which will save time assigning the texture to it, but it makes it easier to unwrap. So if we switch back to your screen, so that's what we've got to do to the letter L. So if you switch to edit mode, you want to move closer to it actually. So from the view menu, you want view selected up top. That's it. This just makes it easier to manipulate and maneuver. Right, so switch to edge mode, edge select mode. That's the 3 buttons in the middle, well, middle-ish. To the right of where you are right now, that's those 3 buttons there. To your left now, that's it. You want the middle of those 3, that's the edge select. So left click that, and then right click one of the edges of the letter that you've got highlighted.
I clicked, you mean left click maybe?
Right click one of the lines that you can see.
Lines.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right, so you want to click the lines that are running around the outside of that shape as you're looking at it. So right click to select one of them.
Okay, I tried that line, right clicked.
You want the outline, the outside edge of that.
The outside edge of the line, like here?
No, you want to select the lines that are on the outside, that delineate the outer edge of that object.
Okay, so this is one of the lines, this is another line, and that's another line, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So so what you've done there is you've basically selected an edge that's inside the object. You want the edges that are on the outside that define the actual shape of the letter.
Okay, so is this right click or left click?
Right click.
All right, so I'm moving here. I don't see anything happening outside of the lines of this triangle.
No, not that's it. That's what you need to do. So you need to go around the outer perimeter of that letter, that shape that's defined, and shift right click all the other edges.
Shift right click all the other edges. Okay.
That's
that
it.
One. Do another?
Yeah.
There. And I need to go over here, right?
Hang on. I'll switch to what you need to do. Because what you're doing, if you're watching the Twitch stream.
Yep.
So let me just zoom in as close as I can. So when you change your selection mode, that's these 3 buttons, it changes what element or sub-element of the object you can select. So if you have vertices active, all you can do is select vertexes. So that's right click, it's always right click, and to select multiples it's shift right click. If you change to edge select mode, it's the same thing, you're selecting edges. And then for face select, you're selecting faces. But in this instance, because we've got because we optimized the mesh, it's already kind of split into all these individual triangles. So what we're doing is selecting the outer perimeter of the shape. That's these edges. Whoops. We don't need these inner edges. We just need to select the perimeter of the shape. So you do that all the way around.
Okay. I think I understand that a bit more.
Yeah. So if you press the A key just to clear that selection, move the mouse over the 3D view. right, and then right-click one of the edges on the outside along the perimeter, and then shift right-click, add the others.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Do another.
Yeah, shift right-click, and again follow that line around the outer perimeter of this shape, not the inside edges. You want the outside. You're not
Over here then.
You're not clicking on the outside of an edge. You're clicking the outer edges. So that's the outer edges that define that letter, which is the letter L. You want the perimeter edges.
Oh, so I'm going like around here, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So you might press the A key just to clear that selection, and then do your right-click one of the edges and work your way around the. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Oop, missed it. Should I hit A? I wanted to get over here.
No, that's fine. Keep going.
Can I get over here? Yes, I can. All right. I'll hit that. Right around there. Nope. Trying to get the back one here. I don't think that's an option from this angle.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think I need to do here. Right. Here, 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 here.
Can I?
Here.
Can we do this via Zoom? Can I control your
I can give you control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remote control,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah. Try that.
Well, this is going to get crazy now.
Yeah.
Okay, you have control, sir.
Right. So.
Try not to blow my computer up.
Yeah, this is gonna. I don't know how well this is going to work.
Are you able to move, or do you have too much lag?
I guess it's lag.
Okay. Well, maybe you can start and I can see what you're doing so I can mimic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not doing anything. I think with us streaming and doing this at the same time, it's just not it's not doing it. You've kind of got it. You partially got it. What you're essentially doing is you just want to isolate one side of the object. So if I just show my screen on Twitch again. So what you're doing is isolating the side from the rest of the mesh. So what you are basically selecting, or isolating I should say, is one side of the mesh. And you're doing that, let me just switch there, you're doing that by defining the edges around the shape. So what you should end up with is something that's similar, is similar to this, where you have the outline selected. So you don't need to select anything inside the mesh. You don't need to select anything inside or any of these other edges running across to the back.
Okay.
You just want to isolate the front as we are looking at it on screen.
Okay. All right, that changes things. Should I reset this then?
Yeah, so if you move the mouse over the 3D view again and then press the A key just to clear your selection.
Okay.
Now try selecting again, remembering that you're essentially trying to select the outline to isolate.
So I'm going around, I think I'm going around here, yes?
Well,
Or
what you were doing was what you should be doing, but you're also including edges that you don't need to select. You're selecting essentially across the mesh. You don't want to do that. You just want to select on this side that we're looking at. So what you're doing is essentially isolating the side of that letter that we're actually looking at.
okay.
So if you right click one of the edges and work your way around using shift right click.
Am I still doing the lines? Because you were clicking inside the lines, what I recall.
No, don't click inside the shape. You just need to click the outer perimeter edges. You don't need to click any of the edges that are running on the inside.
Okay. So let me just trace it to make sure I've got this right. This side, yes.
Hang on, there's a bit of a delay.
Okay. I'm just moving my cursor up and down of where I think it would be.
Yeah, it's not catching up.
We're getting lag.
Yeah.
That hence the confusion.
Right. So do what you were doing.
So I was just going up and down here. Like this is one part I want to get, right?
Yes. So yeah. So if you right click the edge that you've got your mouse cursor over right now.
Yep.
And then move the mouse up.
This is the side I want, right?
Hang on. It's
Or am I
lagging
going
again.
further? Okay.
There we go. Yeah, so if you shift right click that now.
This line here, right?
Yes, the smaller.
The smaller. What do you mean by that? This part?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
Why is it that these streams always tend to lag at the most important?
Right during the crucial part. Hey, I know what. Let me take a snapshot of my screen and I'll just send it to you on Hangouts. That's probably a little faster, so I can at least indicate to you, like, I think I'm going for this, but I'm not.
But you're not. Yeah.
Because we're like. Now this is a crazy L, so I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah, if you just do a screen capture, you don't need to do anything else. What I'll do is I'll draw an outline around the object, and then.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. I was trying to cut it down.
Yeah, no worries about that.
Let me just send you the whole thing. That'll be. All right, so I'm gonna send that to you on Hangouts. Second here, I'll stop sharing for a moment.
Oops. Yeah. I do wish this Zoom thing would stop. Whenever you stop doing, if you've got multiple screens, it always reverts to the primary screen instead of remembering where it's positioned when you placed it. And when it does that, it shows the URL for the stream.
Okay, so I just sent it to you on Hangouts.
Right. Okay, brilliant.
Then you can draw around the edge that you want me to do, since we're getting lag, and then I can do that back on Blender.
Come on. What is it doing now? Save image as. Or can't I just copy it? Copy image. Right, so you can probably see this on stream actually. Right, so what you should be doing is selecting these edges We should have done this before.
No, that would have been too easy.
Right, so when that catches up...
I see you drawing the line, actually, as you do it.
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, I was missing the lower right side. I was trying to get like everything I saw on that side rather than the actual.
So as you can see on screen, so what this essentially does is it isolates that one side, that one plane. And that's what you want to do. So you're selecting the edges just around the perimeter of that side, and that's it. That's all you need to do. So if you share your screen again.
So I'm going to be... Let me double check this. I just want to make sure I got this. Okay. All right, you went around there. You came back up there. You want the whole top. Got it. Okay. Let me share again. All right, we're back.
All right, so there we go.
Now, shift left click or right click?
Right click. So you right click one of the edges and then shift right click the rest of them to join the... That's it.
Now you went like that.
Yeah.
And you went down there.
Yeah. That's it.
You went up here, and then you looped around here.
Yeah, that's it.
You came like that.
Yep.
Okay, so I think
we should have done that. We should.
No, I liked it when you were trying to explain it to me, and it was lagging, and I could detect some frustration.
Well, that used up like 20 minutes of the stream doing that. We could have done it in 2 minutes.
This arguably would have been more efficient use of our time, but you know.
Yeah.
There's that whole try on air, because some people are trying to do this as they're watching this too, right? So
I would hope so. Yes. Right. So with that,
I don't want to look too smooth here, so I have to like pretend to make mistakes. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Right. So from the mesh menu.
Okay.
So bottom left. It's to the left of the edit mode object mode selector. So
there we go.
That's it. So left click that.
Okay. I remember doing this.
Edges.
Edges.
A bit further up. That's it. And then in that menu option, you've got near the top mark seam.
Okay. All right.
And you might notice that the edges that you've selected have highlighted an orange colour.
Mm-hmm.
That means you've now got a seam marked. Exit edit mode, object mode, and just save the file so that we've got a copy.
Yeah, and I'm thinking future, maybe if I need to do some of this on the other letters or sides of the letters, we can just do that drawing again.
Yeah. Well,
because that actually went a lot faster.
It did actually, yeah. Well, we've been going for 2 hours, so I don't know. This might take a bit longer than expected. So, I mean, should we call it quits here because we've at least got one element of it?
Yeah, and on Thursday, I was able to get this room a little earlier, so I'll be set up and ready to go.
Excellent.
By 14.
Excellent.
Because on Tuesdays there's a meeting in here that invariably always goes over, so I'm always like going to be late because I have to kick people out and then I have to get everything hooked up and make sure it's working. So.
Yeah, and then everybody thinks you're a tyrant because you keep kicking them out of rooms.
Yeah, or they just don't look on the door. They just go, "Oh, there's nobody in here. I guess it's free." And then I come in a moment later and they're like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, we made some good progress here. I think. Thursday we'll see how far we get. It sounds like I'm going to do this for all the letters And then after we do that and touch it up a bit, then I'll work on a pose maybe if there's
Yes.
time. And then any slack, if I'm getting really delayed, we have to call in the heavy guns to help with some of the later poses if we put enough in. That's
Yes.
you, buddy. You're the heavy gun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can, ordinarily the poses aren't necessarily an issue, but for you, it's going to push you quite a bit in terms of your ability to control what's going on screen, because you have to be quite precise with the way that you manipulate the bones in order to get it into a pose, the skeleton into a pose. So that'll be quite a challenge for you.
So I do have a question about the hard line I gave on February 1st. Like, I'm thinking like, okay, we get it out that weekend, that's like the third, the second, like the Friday, right? Is that more than enough time? Like if for some reason we got delayed and went to the Tuesday of next week, and then we got it out that Wednesday, would that be enough time? I don't want to push it out there unless we have an emergency, but I'm just trying to figure out.
Well,
like,
how long did we have for the not the Valentines? The Halloween. That was 2 weeks.
That was about 2 weeks, and I wanted to give at least 2 weekends, and we had a lot of delays. You recall, like one time there was a blender bug, and then things were taking longer than we thought. So yeah.
So Valentine's is the 14th.
Yeah, and it sounds like the 13th is the last.
So I think, so what you said is pretty much on the, if we can get this done for at least the 1st of February, then that gives about 3 weeks almost.
Well, not quite 3 weeks, more like about 12 days.
Yeah.
2 weeks. But 2 weekends is what I'm
2
looking
weekends, sorry, yeah.
I think that's
2 weeks, sorry, yeah.
That gives time for people to hear about it, start deriving, touch things up if they need to change it, right? Is the idea.
So hang on. Texturing. So DJ Debs, texturing is one of that I'm a little lost on as well. I got that you have a time restraint. Thank you for making sure that we can watch the vids later. Oh, right. Yeah. So there's I mean, there are quick ways to do things, but they're not necessarily going to be the right way to do things. So, if you do what we did in the previous session when we UV unwrapped the object, yes, you can do a pretty simple UV map and a pretty simple texture assignment. Have I still got it open? Yeah. So you can do a really simple texture assignment. So if it's for you, then that's usually fine. As long as you compensate, as we said earlier, by bleeding your... so let's say this is red. So this is red. So we need to bleed the edge so that it extends slightly outwards from the perimeter of the UV map that's defined. And that should solve most of the issues with the stretching that occurs. Because what it's actually doing is it's picking up on the fact that you've got a background color, and where you get this border, this transition, that's the word I was looking for, the transition from your UV map to the background color is what's being picked up and stretched. And as you can see, as you zoom in, what you're getting is stepped pixels. And it's these individual pixels that are being stretched across the mesh because, because we are using pixels, we're not using vectors or any sort of mathematical, wizardry. It will stretch these individual pixels across, and that's where the lines are actually coming from, because it's picking up on this transition. So you have to hide it. So if I where's the red thing that I just did? Oh, did I paint over the top of it? Oops, yes I did. Included it with the letters. So if I make that slightly transparent, you can see what's actually going on. So we've got the UV map, just paint a level of bleed, and that should solve that problem. But yes, you can unwrap objects simply, but you have to make sure that you compensate for any issues you might encounter, or you can do it properly, which is what we are doing. But that means you have to think about the layout and how people unwrap that, because you do make it more complicated in terms of what the object is and how it's unwrapped. So for people that aren't versed texture artists, they might struggle with it. So you've got to consider whether you want the thing to be easy to derive and easy to texture, but make sure that you compensate for any problems that occur, or you do it properly, but it makes it difficult to texture because you have to know what you're doing with respect to the layouts of the UV or the full UV. Make them bleed, yes. We shall make them... Whoops. So any other...
I'm going to need to get going.
Yeah.
But thank everybody who turned out, and thank you, JazzCat, for instructing a new person.
You're very welcome.
I will see you Thursday, and if you want to chat in between, feel free to contact me. If we want to draw letters out or whatever.
Yeah.
Work on our skit and our jokes.
Do we know if Chairman Maurice is going to join us?
I think she prefers to be called Comrade, as she told me.
Oh, no, that was it. It was Conrad. That was the word. Conrad.
I think we'll find it. We'll probably know like late Wednesday, early Thursday. She likes to keep us anticipating her presence, so we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Go from there.
Yeah.
But we probably, I guess, as we progress, we may want to show her the mesh if she doesn't show up for a while, because she'll undoubtedly have some commentary to make, useful too.
Yes.
And we'll see what we want to do from there.
Yeah. All right then. Well, we'll call it quits for tonight then. That's we're pretty much on time, 2 hours 16. So that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We started a little late, but we did about 2 hours. So
yeah.
We'll go from there. And I think like, this, I think as we get to the end of this week, we can reevaluate if we have enough time or if we need to do another session or a longer one or something too.
Yep.
So we need to do like a 3 hour instead of a 2 hour. I could probably make that work with some advance notice, and assuming there's no emergencies here.
Yep.
My main concern is like if there's an emergency where I can't show up, then we lose 2 hours, right? So got my fingers crossed that doesn't happen until after we're done with the mesh, and then it can all come at me.
Well, what we've got to do next is just set up the UV maps using seams, and once we've done that, it's at least getting a furniture item sorted out. That's relatively straightforward. now that we have FBX, hint hint at Code Rodent, who's still in stream. And so that makes that much easier. And then it's just a question of deciding what we want to do with the poses.
Aislinn had a suggestion of a pose if you throw up there. I think some others.
Which one?
She said the girl was like leaning forward or something. And
oh.
The boy was leaning forward like a part-way kiss.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to think about
that
and all the nuances and details. There's also the question of, even if we want to do that, how complex is that? That doesn't sound like a simple pose.
It's not.
Sounds like a cool pose, but not an easy one.
No, it's because you have to do, you're basically doing a couples pose. And so they're quite tricky.
Yeah, so I probably want to stick to a simple one, and then depending on time, we'll see about other poses or not.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, that's it for tonight. Thank you for the usual whatchamacallery thingamajiggery doodle watching, and we shall see you on Thursday. What day is it today? Tuesday, Wednesday? Yes, it's Thursday.
It's Tuesday in California.
Yeah, so it's Wednesday. Yeah, so it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for depending on your time zone.
Yeah. So looks like they like the leaning kiss option.
Yeah.
I don't have that skill set.
Oh, can of worms. We're falling right now.
Yeah, just putting it out there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, then. We shall see you on Thursday. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.